actually, one of the funny things is one of the biggest disappointments for me growing up was when I was a kid. I thought that adults were super smart. I was like, man, they're so smart. They're like so put together. I can't wait till I become an adult. Then I'm going to have my shit together and I'm going to be super smart just like them. And then you become an adult and you realize like, yo, they're the same they're the same dumb kids. They're just older. They're just literally older kids. They don't know what the fuck that they're doing. Nobody knows what they're talking about. You know, it's so weird. It's like when you have that realization, you're just like, shit, everything I thought was a lie. And you know, high school never ends. That's true. That's true. It's wild. The only thing really that kind of, in my opinion, the only thing really that kind of separates people and like kind of is experiences. It's like when people have like more life experiences, like shit happens to them. Like you have people like some fucked up shit happens in their life, or they had to pull themselves up, like, you know, like, you know, they had to figure out shit on their own, and like, you know, they've experienced like being like having no money and then having to like actually work on that. People that really work for shit, I think it kind of changes you. I think it changes you, you know? And I think that's really the key. That's the key from like a person going from like a kidult, you know, like a kidult into like actually having some kind of understanding of like how things work, right? Like if you don't work that much, then how will you know like what it is to like actually work, you know? People getting hit by life versus never facing adversity. Yeah, exactly.
Wise slime of the internet, what is your wisdom?
What is my wisdom? Thank you. Thank you for the bits. Thank you. What is your wisdom? Buy some land. Buy some land and a house. ASAP. Anyway, I think that's what contributes to it, right? Because again, like as a kid, you see adults, especially ones at university, which everyone told you that they're so smart. Obviously they must be right. Right when you're a kid, you're like, they have money, they have a position at like a university, and universities where all the smart people go. So if they're teaching at a university, they must be giga smart. How to get land and house money? Control your spending. Control your spending and learn two things. Learn to, and I'm not very good at this, I'm gonna be 100% real. Learn to defer pleasure. Learn to be patient and resist the pleasure of now for more later. It's literally like the case of like the kid where it's like, hey kid, do you want a chocolate like right now? But if you wait like an hour, I'll give you 3. It's kind of like that. And like a lot of kids take the chocolate now rather than the 3 later. And of course, like that's not to say like always, you know, there are cases in which that's a smart play. But like for instance, if you're talking like $100 versus $300 and the time difference is like 5 years, then you probably want the $100 now, obviously. But you know, again, short term versus long term. And I think the other thing, and again, like I'm not super good at these things, like myself, like, you know, I still struggle with it. You know, everyone struggles with it. Like I don't. It's not a case of a person having everything together all the time. The other thing is, there's a really important, like another one that I think is really huge. Thank you for the follow, Average Zombie. Is it's actually like I'm it's a little religious. I'm sorry, but it's there's a little prayer that I learned in school, and it was God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think like that is huge. Like having that understanding of like, you know, it is what it is fucking massive. Because otherwise you're just stressed out all the time, right? You're just stressed out all the time, and then like if you don't know the difference between what you can change and what you can't. In fact, the funny thing is if you look at a lot of the world's problems, if you look at a lot of the world's problems, a lot of it is actually comes from that. at least the societal problems, sorry, not the world's problems necessarily, but the societal problems that we have in like America, and like all of the issues with the all the social strife. A lot of it is caused by a dissonance in that mentality, not being able to understand that you can't, that you have to have the peace to understand the things that you can't change in life, and then you have to have the courage to change what you can in life, and then knowing the difference between the two. People not being able to do that causes all of these problems. Ironically, learning, it is what it is, defining factors in maturity, in my opinion, says the real master. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Actually, I have a very clear example I can give you like right now of this exact thing. This is a societally hot take. I feel like a lot of people would get mad at me for this, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. A good example of this is actually issues with trans people, and I don't mean necessarily what you think I mean by this. What I mean is, there are cases, for instance, where one of the arguments that a lot of people use against trans people is they say like, "Oh, you're physically this. That is, you know, it is what it is. You're physically this. That's what the chromosomes say, right?" But what I think trans people should do is just say like, "Yeah, so what? You're right." And if they could do that, it would alleviate a lot of their pain. Right? Just the understanding that it is different. It is different. It doesn't have to necessarily be bad, but just the fact that it's actually, you know, just accepting the fact that it's a different thing than you know, that it's different biologically. And to make having the understanding that yes, there are physical differences, and that's how it is. And you know, it doesn't mean that you should be treated poorly for it. I'm not saying that. But just that understanding in of itself, I think alleviates a whole lot of the issue. I think people would be happier if they gave less of a shit about labels, basically. Well, I'll give you an example. There's if you follow any sort of right-wing discourse at all, you'll know there's a person named Blair White. And Blair White's basically like, Blair White basically is like, yeah, I'm trans. Like, who cares? Like, what about it? It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same as a biological woman. I don't give a shit. And I think if more trans people had that mentality, then there would be a lot less pain. Anyway, that's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to go into a whole like tangent on that, but basically that is a applicable example of like what I was talking about how the acceptance of the things that you cannot change like brings you peace. And then you have to have the wisdom to understand like the difference between the two. But the things that you can change about your life, you have to have the courage to face it. Sorry. But I don't want to sound like I'm super wise, because I'm not. I'm like kind of retarded. So like, you know, someone asked in chat, like, what do I think? What's my advice for life? And that's my biggest advice, I think. Anyway. You sound like an old voice. Dude, I'm not. I'm really fucking not, dude. I'm really not. I'm freaking out all the time, dude. I'm freaking out all the time. It's like, I don't even follow this advice like perfectly. Like, even me, like I struggle with this. And you can ask Julio and Shy Moth. I struggle with this all the time. Like, I'm constantly having this issue where there's a lot of things that I can't change, but like the fact that it's out of my control bothers me.